going live. Why not? Let's try and go live here and see what happens. This is pretty cool. Here we are going live. So welcome. If this is your first time joining the channel, I'm glad you're here. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I am working on the DevNet Associate Exam for CBT Nuggets, and it's been just an incredible blast being able to put this together. I've been working with Ben Finkel, who's going to be doing the software development portion, and I've been working with the Keith Barker, who's doing the network fundamentals. Now, on my channel, I've already talked a lot about the different things that we may need to know in order to get ready for the DevNet Associate exam. The big thing that's on people's mind is Python, right? I mean, they're marketing it as this software development certification that you can get certified in software development with a network flair. But my finger on the pulse, the gist that I'm getting, the people who are really, really interested in taking this are already network engineers. It's not so much, I haven't run into very many software developers who are like, I want to get into networking, but I am running into a lot of network engineers who are trying to get into the automation space. So people are really, really stressed about, the Python portion, and I've got a few videos that cover that, talking about how you can get started on my YouTube channel already. But what you may be curious about, what you may be thinking is, how much networking do I need to know? Maybe you are a software developer thinking about getting into the networking space, or you're kind of new to the networking space and you're wondering if you're ready enough to jump into automation, right? I mean, that's a big deal too. So let's talk about that. Let's unpack it. There's a few things that we should talk about first, and that is, what are the exam objectives? Let's change scenes and take a look at my other screen here. Okay, so by now you should be seeing my other screen coming up, and I'm watching the live stream happen. Let's do this. Let's bring my keyboard and mouse into reach. I've got to move some things here. And we'll bring up the Dev Ask 200-901. There we go. All right, let's take a look at the exam objectives and see, kind of, again, a recap of what is on this test. Okay, so immediately I see some things that are of interest that we should probably talk about. And here's what they are. Let me get my pen so I can highlight this. Okay, so we've got software development and design, right? We're talking software development and design right here. APIs, Cisco platforms and their development, so how we would actually develop specifically for the Cisco platforms. That's where my content starts to come in. The application deployment, so you've written a script, how do you deploy it? Actually automating the maintenance of your infrastructure using something like Ansible. Domain 6, this is what we're here to talk about today, network fundamentals. This is Keith Barker's section. How much of Domain 6 do we really need to know in order to start studying for the DevNet exam? Well, oh no, I cleared my screen. Well, that's okay. Let's bring this up. Let's expand this and talk about this. Okay, so we've got some basic networking information, like what are MAC addresses and VLANs. We're talking layer 2. We're talking IP addresses and routes, a little bit of troubleshooting, some basic connectivity like Telnet and SSH, HTTP and HTTPS, some basic network services like DHCP and DNS. This is very, very fundamental stuff. And so the DevNet Associate exam isn't expecting you to be a network genius, but this is where we should really pause, right? What is your goal here? You see, there's a difference between trying to pass the DevNet Associate exam just to pass it and get the certification, and then there's your actual career in networking, right? I would honestly tell you that if you haven't studied for the CCNA, you haven't achieved the CCNA, you'll be fine going for the DevNet Associate exam. Our content covers everything you need in order to get that exam. But I would advise you not to get a job in networking until you're very comfortable with network fundamentals and are on your way to the CCNA. I'm thinking about it as a hiring manager. If I have 4 resumes in front of me, I've got 3 CCNAs and a DevNet Associate, well, I'm probably going to look at those CCNAs first. But on that flip side, if I have 4 resumes in front of me and I've got 3 CCNAs and a CCNA with a DevNet Associate, well, guess who just went to the top of the list? For me, it's going to be the DevNet Associate. I think that's going to be, a really big deal in the networking space. So I think that to answer the question, how much networking do you need? Well, the DevNet Associate exam requires very, very little networking, because if I'm looking at the exam objectives and the fundamentals, I mean, we're talking the basics of the basics. I mean, we're not even talking routing protocols, where there's no OSPF here listed. There's no link aggregation, so there's no LACP, no HSRP. It's really just kind of understanding the OSI stack and how to do some basic troubleshooting and understanding basic network services like DHCP and DNS. So our course that Keith is covering for portion 6 here, the network fundamentals, he's got you covered. Absolutely. I mean, there's no better person on earth to learn network fundamentals from than Keith Barker, right? You're going to be set if your goal is to go for DevNet Associate and you've never done networking before. You could do it that way. My advice again would be, like, you're probably going for this exam because you're thinking career minded, and I would really, really encourage y'all to at least take a solid look and pass at the CCNA first. But once you've got the CCNA, or once you're very comfortable with CCNA, man, DevNet is where things are going, right? I mean, it's the DevNet. Like, network automation is a huge deal. And I've got a live stream coming up on Thursday where we're going to talk about what is network automation. Why should you care about it? Why should you consider taking the DevNet exam or the JNCIA DevOps? I have a video coming on Monday that proves why you should care about Juniper and network automation in that space. It's phenomenal. I think I'm going to prove why it matters, and it's going to be pretty cool. I promise you're going to like the demo. So I guess, in summation, just think what is your picture here. I mean, let me pause too and say, like, if you already have a couple years of professional network engineering experience, but you don't have your CCNA, first of all, you may be well along your way to your CCNA and don't even know it. But second of all, you might still want to consider at least watching some of the nuggets or watching some of the skills in the DevNet course. This will be skill-based. So if you're not interested in watching all 50 plus skills that we have, you can go straight into the parts that you care about and do it that way. I think that's another cool thing about doing skills-based is if you're a network engineer thinking about doing the DevNet exam and you're very comfortable with the network fundamentals portion, you can start with the software development. The flip side of it is if you're a software developer and you're not comfortable with networking at all, you can start with keys nuggets. It doesn't matter what order you tackle these in as long as you're comfortable in the topics. But if you've never worked with REST APIs, I wouldn't say, hey, jump straight into the Meraki stuff without understanding how a REST API actually works. You'll want to watch Ben's stuff on REST APIs and JSON serialization, things like that. So, let's see how we're doing so far. I don't even know if we have any comments. Let me see if I can bring the chat up here. Let's do restore chat. Oh man, look at this. So we've got all kinds of comments here. That's pretty cool. Hey everybody. Exam ICND2 is on the 21. That's cool. Cool. So between cloud and DevNet, what would I do first? Oh man. Woo, that is a huge question coming from Brian. Okay. So between cloud and DevNet, I think that really depends on what your role is currently. There are a lot of people who, when they say like they're a network engineer, all they do is networking. Like that's it. All they've ever touched is Cisco, HP, Juniper devices. They've never touched Windows Server. That's a different team. They've never touched Azure, AWS. That's a different team. They've never even touched the firewall. That's a different team. So, oh no, the camera. Oh, let's see if we can bring the camera back. Okay. Did that bring the camera back? Let's see. I think I see the camera going on here. Man, I think the camera... Oh, okay. Well, the camera looks frozen. Let me change scenes here. Let's do this. Here. Well, I think the camera's frozen. Let me answer this question. We'll end we'll end the video, so I'm sorry about that small technical difficulty. All right, so if you do anything outside of just networking, I would honestly say you probably want to check out Azure and AWS. That is a massive, massive topic. And you know that's an even entirely different discussion between administrator, developer, and architect, because there's three different titles in cloud technologies. Architect being the combination of administrator and developer. But then if you're strictly in networking, man, I'm telling you, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but in 2 or 3 years, automating networks is going to be the thing. It's going to be what people care about. So my advice to you would be check out the absolute. You definitely want to check out the DevNet stuff. We got a question here. I have CCNA and route switch considering DevNet. What's your advice? You know, I can't not say don't check out DevNet, because like I say, network automation is really the path that we're going on. And you've got 10 years of networking experience on top of that. I mean, that's a lot of networking experience. So, man, I really wish I could reset this camera here. What's up with that? I don't know. I'm sorry, man. I wish I could get this camera to reload, but it's frozen on some frame for some reason. So, you know, let me do this. Let's jump back to this. We'll just jump back to you know, my screen here, and I'll try and, you know, write or something, so that way it feels a little live. Okay, so. To finish up your question, I have CCNA and considering DevNet. What's your advice? I would say absolutely check out DevNet. It's going to be a huge, huge deal in 2 or 3 years. It's going to give you a huge leg up when you transition into CCNP too, because CCNP gets deeper into network automation one step. So CCNA is not going to require you to do any Python. It's not going to require you to do any like actual development work. They just want you to understand development fundamentals, like what a REST API is, what netconf and RESTconf are. Those are all things that we introduced very early in the DevNet course. When you get into CCNP, it's going to, well, let's take it up one more step. Let's talk a little bit more about what those things are. So you know what? Here's what I'll do. I'll actually write DevNet. This is what you want to probably think about. You know, my advice would be, I think it's a good thing to tackle hand in hand once you've got your CCNA. I think that's going to be a very sexy resume. I personally would move a resume like that to the top of my list, because I think that shows you're willing to attack new technologies. You're willing to seek a you know, a newer way to accomplish tasks. I think that's a really cool forward-thinking way to do things. CCNP gets into network automation, and there's also a specialization. I think it's in auto. So you can get your CCNP and then specialize in automation. And I'll say this in auto is almost equivalent to the DevNet. So if your goal is eventually to be CCNP, CCIE, whatever, you know, even just watching our nuggets on DevNet, that's going to give you a huge leg up as you start to transition into those technologies. So this was my first live stream. Clearly, I ran into some technical issues with the camera. I'm going to get those worked out for the next live stream on Thursday when we talk about what is network automation. I think that's going to be a whole lot of fun, why you should care about that. Check out my channel again on Monday. We're going to have a YouTube video coming live talking about why you should care about Juniper's network automation cert, the JNCIA DevOps. Thanks for stopping by, guys. We'll see you in the next one.